Yves-François Blanchet says his party is heading to court. Today, the leader of the Bloc Québécois announced that it will be challenging the results of the Quebec riding of Terrebonne, where the party lost a seat to the Liberal candidate by a single vote. Elections Canada says the results of the recount are final, despite news that one mail-in ballot was returned to a Bloc voter due to a misprint, and 5 more ballots with misprints arrived to the office too late to be counted. That has Mr. Blanchet calling for another vote.
The situation is quite clear. The judge has established that the Bloc Québécois would have lost the riding by 1 vote. The vote appeared in the hands of a citizen in a very clear fashion, and in that situation, the law requires the election to be done all over again in the riding of Terrebonne. This is what we expect.
Do you think that sets a precedent that you won't accept official election results from Elections Canada and you're not willing to listen to the vote of the people when your party doesn't win?
I'm not getting into that. I'm sorry to rain on the spectacular parade, but this is not my mindset. There's a law. It appears clear. We have a case. We go forward because we want this election to be held properly, and that's it.
Bloc Québécois leader Yves-François Blanchet speaking to reporters earlier today. Frédéric Bérard is a political commentator and a law professor at the University of Montreal.
Frédéric, we just heard Yves-François Blanchet's answer. What about you?
What about me? Well, actually, I think that Yves-François Blanchet is partly right, in the sense that it's true that according to the Election Canada bill, a citizen has the right to ask a court to cancel the election. But for this to happen, the citizen will have to prove that there were an irregularity. And this is where Blanchet might be wrong, actually, because he takes for granted that there is an irregularity with regards to the law, which I'm not sure 100%, and this is why. I mean, if it's a simple mistake from Canada Post, from Election Canada, you know, the story of the stamp and all that, maybe a court would be entitled to say, well, this is not an irregularity in the sense that we understand the law usually. Irregularity probably means something more orchestrated, something more serious, with some bad faith, with something, you know, that could have effect like plenty of votes, not only quite a few. So if the judge decides to go in that way, that would mean that he will not cancel the election, and then François Blanchet would have been wrong.
Does it make a difference from where you sit, you know, looking at the legal aspect, that Elections Canada says these results are final?
No, it makes no difference, because obviously the Superior Court or the Federal Court will listen to the argument of the Election Canada. That is for sure. But it's not because the Election Canada says, well, that's it, the decision is final. That will not, you know, it's not to Election Canada to decide of the result of this particular case. It's going to be to the court to say, well, I think that we need to cancel the election, or I don't think we need to cancel the election. And then if the court decides to cancel it, it means that the Prime Minister Carney will have to act pretty quickly and hold another by-election in a very near future. But frankly, we're not there yet, because I'm not sure that this is an irregularity in the sense expected by the law.
So ultimately, what would need to happen, Frédéric, for another election to happen in Terrebonne?
For me, I mean, let's say that there was some evidence that the Liberal Party of Canada had organized a vast system of fraud. This would be an irregularity, that's for sure. This would bring the court to cancel the election easily. But as of now, what we're speaking of is what? Is a mistake, an error from Canada Post, from Election Canada. It did affect maybe at maximum 2, 3, 4, 5%. Is that an irregularity with regards to the law? Maybe the court will decide that this is the case, but maybe not. I think that it might take something bigger, something with a system with, as I said, with fraud, with bad faith or stuff like that. Because if it's just a very human error in all good faith, maybe it won't be sufficient to cancel the election.
Even if it isn't found that there is an irregularity like you're talking about, or a bigger fraud or bigger issues, it was so close. So would it be better just to be safe rather than sorry, because it is so close?
That's exactly. Well, that's a very, very good question. The court might decide, a bit as I said, okay, well, I'm not sure that this is an irregularity in terms of the law, but I'm quite sure, and this is for instance the judge speaking, I'm quite sure that this might happen in the future. So we need to fix this. We need to be clear on this. We need to make sure that this kind of mistake will not happen again. So I decided to cancel it because we want the people voting having confidence in their democratic institutions. So the court might decide, well, this irregularity, even though it was not in bad faith, did affect the confidence of the population towards our democracy. So I rather cancel it and make sure that we avoid that kind of mistake in the future.
In your career, have you ever seen a situation like this with a vote in Canada?
Actually, it's the first time that I heard of something that, how may I put it, a kind of roller coaster like that, because it's now 3 recount, and even with the last recount, which is the judicial review, I mean, it might be not enough because of that vote that would have been not transferred at the right time and all that. I'm quite sure, maybe I'm wrong, I mean, it's hard to double check that, but I'm quite sure that this is the first time in Canadian history that something like that is happening. So that might bring the court to decide, as you propose, say, well, okay, listen, this is a pretty serious. This is not happening on a day-to-day basis, obviously and hopefully. So let's cancel it, let's redo it, and let's make sure that we won't make those mistakes again, because we want to protect the integrity of the democratic institution in Canada.
And whatever happens with this case, I mean, it certainly underlines the importance of every single vote.
Oh, yeah, well, I would have started with that. I mean, as a political commentator, you always say, well, go voting. I mean, each and every vote count. And some people say, yeah, well, I'm not sure. I mean, in my riding, I mean, blah, blah, blah. It's not that close, blah, blah. Now, and don't forget that Terrebonne is a 100% Francophone region, which means that even though that the Bloc was quite sure to win it, actually they lost it only by one single vote, which is spectacular when you think of that. So in other words, anything can happen anytime. So I think it's a pretty good lesson for a lot of us.
Frédéric, so glad we could speak. Thank you.
Okay, you call me anytime.